Let's talk about spiritual bypassing and toxic positivity and why you want to avoid them, what they are, why you want to avoid them, how they're not great signs even when we think they are, and why they are, in fact, a trap. My name is John Moore, and I am a shamanic teacher from Maine in the US. And I want to talk to you a little bit about this topic because it's super important. And I'll bring you back to a story to begin with. So pre-pandemic, I ran a monthly face-to-face meetup group of spiritually conscious professionals to get together. So anybody from accountants who practice yoga regularly to people who owned healing practices, and everybody in between. And it was really open. And one night that we were holding a meeting, a couple of young women came in who had started on their spiritual journey as part of a recovery process, recovering from addiction, and which I think is fantastic. I think it's great to add whatever you can to get addiction is a really difficult thing, and anybody who has been through addiction or has loved ones who've been through addiction can know how challenging that can be, and whatever you can do to help yourself is fantastic. So we were talking, I can't remember the exact topic we were discussing, but this young woman said to me, on the way over here, I've been meditating every day and practicing yoga and doing therapy and all of these things. And on my way over here, somebody cut me off, and I got really angry that somebody cut me off in traffic. And then I thought, I shouldn't get angry. I'm a spiritual person. And then I got angry about being angry. And so then I asked her, I'm like, well, then did you get angry about being angry, about being angry? And then did you get angry about being angry, about being angry, about being, and so on and so forth. And the point here is not that, the point is that it's silly to get angry over getting angry, but we do. We all, when we get disappointed in ourselves for having certain reactions and that sort of thing. The point is that if she felt the angry feeling and actually embraced it, it would pass really quickly rather than being held in place. And you can use that as a tool for further development. Trace that back. Oh, I'm feeling anger right now. Not, oh gosh, I'm feeling angry. I shouldn't feel angry. Now I'm going to get really ticked off at myself for feeling angry. Feelings are meant to come up and pass through you, and there are lessons to be learned there. So spiritual bypassing happens when we use our spirituality to avoid hard feelings or things that are going on in our life, or that sort of thing. And it can come in many forms. So one form it comes in is spiritual egotism, where I am above anger, I am above grief, I am above sadness, or I am above having to pay my bills, or I don't touch money because that's unclean, and I can't be unclean because I'm above that. First of all, that's egotism, and that is the opposite of spiritual development. You're not actually developing when you think these things. I'm sorry to say this, and if this is a rude awakening to you, this is an important lesson. This is an especially important lesson for you. But thinking these things doesn't make them true. And in shamanism, which I'm not advocating the path of shamanism for anyone who is not interested in shamanism, I'm not proselytizing, I'm just using my own training and the things that I do as an example. We're expected to live in both worlds, right? And there is a podcast that I listened to before, and I wish I remember the name of the podcaster, but she talks about shamanism, and one of her expressions is, but does it grow corn? And the meaning behind that is, I can do all this great spiritual work. I can journey to the center of the galaxy and experience gods and goddesses and commune and read the Akashic records and all of these things. But at some point I come back into my body and I have to eat. I have to feed myself. So does it grow corn? And all, not to say any of those things are bad, but when we focus on those things to the exclusion of our physical life, we are making a mistake. I will say this: yes, you are a divine spirit At your core, you are a divine spirit having a human experience. As a divine spark, a divine spirit having a human experience, that does not mean you don't have a body and you don't have a soul and you don't have emotions. You have those things. The opposite of spiritual bypassing is identifying with those things. I am my body. I am my thoughts. I am my emotions. All of those things are kind of a mistake. But thinking that those things aren't important is also a mistake. Okay, so that's where spiritual bypassing happens, and it drags us down the wrong path. And for me, I believe that I'm a part of divinity, connected to everything, but that I individuated, right? So I think that divinity is like this bright, white, infinite light, and it hits this prism and spreads out into all of the colors that you can imagine, different light beams going all over the place. It refracts, and we are those individual unique light beams. If you take the prism away, our differentiation away, then we kind of go away. But there's a reason that prism is in place. There's a reason we're having this experience in the body. There's a reason why we're going through ups and downs. Some people call this a soul contract, or what have you. And I'm not saying seek out difficulties, seek out life challenges, ruin your life. I'm not saying any of those things. That's not necessarily the lesson that you're here to learn. You are here to learn how to get through these things. You are here to learn spiritual tools. When we bypass, when we say, these things don't affect me because I am a divine spirit, we are bypassing the lessons that we're here to learn. And that is not a great thing. The other thing is we're going to mess up our life. We're going to mess up our physical life by not taking care of the things that we're supposed to take care of. And that's not great either, because trust me when I say this, incarnating into the physical world is a gift, because the vast majority of the universe, the multiverse, I should say, doesn't manifest into this physical plane. There's a lot more beings out there that don't have a physical body. This is a gift, and we don't give that up. We don't look a gift horse in the mouth. We don't look at this as impurity. And yes, I know there are Gnostic systems of thought and all of those things that think that the material universe is a mistake, or it was created by the devil, or what have you. I don't take that point of view. If you do, we can disagree. We can have conversations about that, respectful conversations about that. I'm not going to disrespect you, and I hope you won't disrespect me. But I just don't think that that's true. I don't think this is a mistake, and I don't think that this material world is less divine than anything else. Part of our lesson is to see the divinity in everything and everyone. So let's talk about toxic positivity, which is another aspect. And this sometimes shows up in non-spiritual contexts. So we all know those people who are always look on the bright side, right? And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of optimism. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I'm going to get through this. What's wrong is when we don't, or right and wrong are kind of judgments. I'm being a little judgy, but that's okay. What's harmful, what takes us off our path is, there's that old meme where there's like a dog who's sitting in a building that's on fire and just like staring into space going, everything is fine. That is ignoring the situation that you're in. That's different than saying, you know what, in looking at the situation as it is, this is hard. There's some crap going on right now. But I know that I'm going to get through it. I am going to get through this. I'm going to find a way to get through this. That is healthy positivity. It's taking the situation realistically, but putting some optimism on top of that. And that's fine. Toxic negativity is the opposite side of that, obviously, where we're like, everything sucks and everything's going to hell and we're, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Not a great situation either. The middle path, the path between spirit and physical, the path between toxic positivity and toxic negativity. There is a positive reality there, and there are lessons to be learned from going through hard experiences. In shamanism, there is a shamanic crisis, which is the call to awaken sometimes comes from a health crisis or a mental health crisis or a physical world crisis where everything seems to fall apart. And it does that so that you can learn how to put it back together. And if my life fell apart today, I lost my house and my family and who knows, everything, my health went downhill. That would be a real challenge for me. That would be really, really difficult. But I would use the spiritual tools that I have along with the physical tools that I have to rebuild and to get some lessons from what has happened to me. And I have gone through several phases in my life where everything has fallen apart. And we consider that an initiation in shamanism. And again, that's putting a positive view, a positive but a realistic view on what happened. I don't look back at incredibly difficult times in my life and say, wasn't that fantastic? Because it wasn't. It stunk, and I don't want to go through that again. But realistically, I may go through situations like that again and again and again in my life until I die. But growth comes from when I learn from that. Growth comes from when I embrace that, from when I say, you know what, things stink right now, but I'm going to figure out how to get through this, and my spirituality is going to be a pillar that lifts me up, that helps me through this. That doesn't help me bypass this. It helps me go through this in a way where I don't lose myself. I don't lose my sense of my divinity. Okay, so there is the everything happens for a reason crowd, and that can be a form of toxic positivity. And if you say that to somebody who is in grief, that can be a really harmful thing. Just know that. Don't say that to somebody who's grieving a serious loss. Everything happens for a reason. That may be so, but that's not helpful for somebody who's grieving in that moment. What people want is they want you to empathize with them. That is, I'm above you, so I'm going to save you from your emotional pain by pointing out my viewpoint, which is superior to yours. That's not helpful. It is empathetic when somebody's going through grief to say, I feel really bad about your loss. If you do feel bad, that's real empathy. Okay. And to share that with somebody, to be able to share that, to be able to step in and hold space for somebody who's grieving and not judge their grief, not to say, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Because that's really what you're saying when you say everything happens for a reason. You're saying you shouldn't feel the way you're feeling. And grief is important. Grief is an important process to go through. I'm not wishing grief on anybody, but we all go through grief in our life. If you have human beings in your life that you care about, you are going to lose some of them. And that's an unfortunate reality of life. Grief is part of the human experience. And we do need to go through it, to process it, to have all of those emotions. And they talk about the stages of grief, which include anger, denial, depression. And, one thing to know about grief is it's not a linear process. So we circle back through these things over and over again. It does get better over time. But to say you shouldn't feel sad, or I don't want you to feel sad because I'm uncomfortable with you feeling sad, that's not helpful for somebody who's grieving. And if you're somebody who's grieving, that's not helpful for you. It's not helpful for you to judge your feelings or to have your feelings judged. You feel what you feel and experience that. And you can seek support. You can say this feeling is incredibly uncomfortable, which it is. It is uncomfortable. We need to be in this world more, how shall I put this, comfortable being uncomfortable. We need to find comfort in the discomfort, to know that discomfort is not the end of the world for us. Okay, so that we don't bypass the discomfort, because you're gonna feel it, and the more you bypass it, the more you resist it, the longer it persists, and the less healing that you do. I hope this has been helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you have appreciated anything I've said here, and I will talk to you real soon.